Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit. Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Igloo, an intranet you'll actually like. Visit igloosoftware.com/thisweekin for a chance to win a $150 iTunes gift card. And by eMinutes. Are you a first-time entrepreneur looking to incorporate? eMinutes will form your corporation for free. Go to eMinutes.com for more details.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. This is This Week in Startups. Today we are live from New York City at MakerBot's new store, as you can see around me, opening at 2 p.m. today, and with me, co-founder Bre Pettis, a genius of a guy who's making 3D printing a reality and really pushing what was something on the fringe to actually having a storefront that's fascinating the world. 3D printing, is it going to be real? Are you going to have one in your house? And when? We're going to talk about all those things and how he got this company to where it is, opening a storefront. It's going to be an amazing interview.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this interview with MakerBot is amazing, if I do say so myself, not because I'm interviewing, I mean, that does add to it, but what an amazing product, what an amazing vision, and boy, is it awesome, and it's just as awesome as Igloo software. Yes, that's the intranet you'll actually like, built on social tools you already use, file sharing, shared folders, shared calendars, blogs, wikis, all with the secure business content. Igloo is fully hosted and managed in the cloud, so you can focus on your work and not the IT budget. Here's how we use it. We keep track of all of our equipment here. Check out that nice wiki where we have all the equipment and how much we spent on it and how much is This is very good for us because I need to have all this information at my fingertip when I need it, because then I can check it and I can yell at somebody for not doing their job. No, seriously, you need to have an intranet, and great companies like IDC, Deloitte, NetApp, Kimberly-Clark, RCA. I think RCA went out of business in 1947. It's RSA. I know those guys. Aetna Insurance. All these folks use Igloo software. It's a great intranet. Bring your team in from the cold by getting inside the Igloo. Yes, visit igloosoftware.com/thisweekin. And you will be entered into a drawing for an iPad mini. Yes, these guys are smart. Get a 30-day free trial and enter to win an iPad mini, which has become my preferred device. All right, let's get on with this interview. This is an amazing interview with, of course, MakerBot, which is an incredible product, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, Igloo Software. Hey, everybody, we're back. It's Jason Calacanis. This is This Week in Startups. With me, Bre Pettis, co-founder.
Great to have you here.
Great to have, yeah, it's like, usually I'm like, great to have you in my studio, but we're here in your store. This is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, we open up in a few hours.
So you must have, you got some butterflies, obviously.
Yeah.
3D printing, we met a couple years ago. 3D printing was just getting started, and now there's a store. What's happened in the last 3 years to take 3D printing from something that's, let's face it, was just not practical, highly impractical, and very speculative, to now actually opening a storefront?
You know, when we started, it was because we wanted a 3D printer and we couldn't afford one.
Right.
So we just went ahead and made one, and when it almost worked, we quit our jobs and started MakerBot.
Right.
And
I mean, the first product was pretty pathetic. I mean, let's be honest. You could make it was promising, but it took forever. It broke.
We've come a long way.
No, seriously, how much did it cost to make that prototype 3 years ago?
First prototypes that we shipped out, so we made 20 and we shipped those out, and you actually had to get, you got electronics boards with teeny tiny little surface mount components and a pair of tweezers, and we actually shipped them with like magnifying goggles, and you like tweezered these things on there and stuck them in a toaster oven to make your own electronics.
Right.
And I think about half the people were actually successful in doing that.
Right. So of the 20 kits you sold, probably 3 machines were made. But it was a revolution, and it was eye-opening when you made, I think you made the Statue of Liberty for me, and I was just like, wow,
yeah, you
can actually make something. It's got that Star Trek kind of replicator appeal, but a lot has changed in the last 2 years. What has been the change?
Well, we're now on our 4th generation machine. We've got the MakerBot Replicator 2 desktop 3D printer, and it's instead of being made out of, laser cut plywood, it's made out of powder coated steel.
Right.
And it's come a long way. When we started, we kind of joked that if we were actual engineers, we'd still be working on the prototype.
Right.
But because we just kind of we're tinkerers and just wanted to get something out there, we were able to iterate our way into now just a fantastic machine. And, engineers, industrial designers, and architects now can get it and rely on it and enjoy it and make cool things.
And you're kind of going from the bottom up. I mean, there were 3D printers that were available to, for example, I guess car companies making models and stuff like that, but they were $500,000.
They were a lot of money.
$300,000, $400,000, $500,000 just 2 or 3 years ago. How much were they?
Anywhere from, I think the low end when we started was at $60,000, and it went up to more than $1 million.
Wow.
And,
yeah.
when you have to choose, and they were refrigerator-sized machines.
Right.
And
they're not going to be in anybody's home anytime soon.
It was like the mainframe era of 3D printing.
And now you have this machine. It's about $2,000,
$2,200, yeah.
And what is it capable of making? I mean, we have some things here, some toys, if you will, little interesting objects. But you can make this helicopter in, I guess, a couple of different pieces. It's got a working rotor here and a working rotor up here. And I guess these are plugged in together. So essentially you can make what would be toys that we would normally buy in a store and then assemble them.
Sure. And then there's also professional users. So we've got GE and NASA buying fleets of MakerBots to work on next generation space travel and next generation manufacturing stuff. And then we've got interesting things like doctors who are, you go and you get your MRI, and then maybe they need to do brain surgery, and they'll actually print out maybe a brain tumor that you have in your head.
Wow.
And then they can look at it and know what they're going to get when they cut into the gushy stuff.
And I'm assuming that would be really great. I mean, this is an ornament here, but if we were looking at the brain, this is a great educational moment for the person who's got the tumor and is, hey, listen, here is the tumor, and it could actually reduce the anxiety in that person.
Yeah, we're going to get this out.
Right.
And just the idea of being able to see that stuff that you can see in 2D, but being able to hold in your hand, doctors get a better feel for it.
How did you wind up starting a 3D printer company? What were you doing before this that led you to, because there's some string that you were pulling on that got you here. How did you get here, you think?
Well, I've always been hungry for, what's next. And I grew up with, my folks had a software company from 1981 to 1985.
Wow.
For the Apple to the Commodore 64 and the Acorn, which was...
What software did they make?
It was a software company called Software Productions, and they made Micro Mother Goose and Alphabet Beast and Company, which were both games for
edutainment.
Children. Yes. Early edutainment.
We used to call it edutainment in the 80s. Right?
And, so I grew up around that kind of stuff. And then I've always been a tinkerer. And I moved to New York, and I didn't have a hackerspace here. And see, I come from Seattle, moved here in January of 2007, and didn't have a place to go hang out with tons of equipment and machines. So gathered a bunch of folks together, and we started NYC Resistor, a hackerspace in Brooklyn. And when you have a bunch of people who are really smart and a lot of tools, you can make anything, because you've got the tools to make it, and then you've got the know-how to make it. And it was just a natural fit once we could make anything to make something that could make anything.
And when did you first hear about 3D printers? Do you remember that moment where somebody said, oh, here's a 3D printer, or you saw it on PBS or something? When did you first see that, and what did you think? I
think it was 2005 or 2006, and a company called Desktop Factory came out. And they actually never delivered a product, but they did a really good job of marketing the idea. And that was going to be a machine that you could buy for $5,000, which was unheard of in the industry. Sure. And I was like, I'm going to have to buy one of those. And even though I was a school teacher at the time making $30K, it was I'm going to have to get one of those so I can
make stuff
play
with
the
students.
Tools of
20% of my yearly salary, but I'm going to get that thing. And what is the state of the business? You raised some angel funding for it and then a proper venture round? How has that gone?
Yeah, so we started with some seed money. We started with $75K in seed money.
Who invested that?
Jake Ludwig and Adrian Boyer.
Jake Ludwig of?
He's one of the creators of Vimeo and all that kind of stuff. He was involved with that whole crew.
Yes.
There's
so
a
the
lot
College
of
Humor folks.
The College Humor.
Vimeo, College Humor. And so you go to Jake and you say, I want to make a 3D printer, or I've made the 3D printer, we can productize this?
Yeah, well, we were like, we have one that almost works.
Almost.
We had some charts where we basically said, this is where we're at now. This is what we think. We were basically, we were playing around. We were distributing, doing kind of like really very early stuff, and it looked very promising. Mm-hmm. And he gave us $50K, and Adrian gave us $50K.
And how do you, what's the conversation like with him? Like, does he actually think it could become a business, or is he just taking like a crazy flyer on it?
I think one of my co-founders, Zach Smith, had worked for him at Vimeo and helped build the back end of Vimeo. So they had a relationship.
Yeah, that helps.
And that was good. And then it was, there's something great about hardware startups where you can show up and you actually have something that you can show that exists.
It's an advantage in a way.
Yeah, because you can say, this exists. This is a prototype.
Right.
You're not investing in vaporware because there's something real here.
Yeah.
And then we had charts that looked good and went up and to the right. And
which was people ordering stuff and people wanting to participate. And then a venture round eventually?
Yep. So, then we did an angel round.
Oh, proper angel round. So you had the micro.
We started in 2009, and then in January 2009, and then we did an angel round the next year for $1.2 million.
And how did those conversations go? I mean, what was the proof point that led you to be able to raise $1 million, not just 75? Because 75, you have a personal relationship, somebody's taking a flyer. But to raise $1 million, you're going to have to meet with, 30, 40 people?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
And, we were making money. We were profitable. We weren't actually paying ourselves, so we were kind of cheating.
Yeah, that's the great entrepreneur accounting. We're profitable. Except the two founders are taking $0.0.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where
profitable off of just the $2,000 or $3,000 kits.
At that point, we didn't know how to price things. So I think our bill of materials was probably $500 or $600, and we were selling them for $750.
Well done. Yeah.
Is one of those things that's like, really, if you're doing a proper product, you should have a multiplier of 2.6 or 3 to be able to make rent and all those kind of things.
Yeah, you're like, $100. If we sell 10,000, we made $1 million. We can do math.
Yeah, great. And then,
is that right?
We just went around, talked to folks, talked to a bunch of venture capitalists, and we had an idea of how we wanted it to work out.
Yeah.
And then we ended up working with an angel named Shauna Fisher out of Highline, and she basically said, "I'll lead the round.
Right.
I see what you're doing here. I see where this is going."
And that's a great magical moment for an entrepreneur to have somebody commit as the lead.
I think I'd been working on it for like 4 months, and then she committed as a lead. And then as soon as she committed, everybody wanted to double down. Everybody who'd been like, yeah, I might be in for this much if it works. We're all like, somebody else thinks like there's something here. This is really happening. Oh yeah. And then we were like, we actually had to we could only take so much.
And it does make you wonder about angel investors, being one that I've invested in about 25 companies. They are lemmings. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting for somebody to take the lead, and then they all pile on. But why couldn't those other 10 folks who were sitting on the fence make their own decision and say, I'll commit 25, I'll commit 50? They're all waiting for that lead. It's incredibly frustrating.
I love my angels. So we've got Shauna, we've got Cal Vapuri, who's just an amazing angel and investor. He just gets into all sorts of cool stuff. We've got Antonio Rodriguez, who sold his company to HP and has all that kind of experience. We've got True.
True Ventures, yeah.
They ended up jumping in as angels as well.
Right.
And
so they were like sort of co-leads, I'm guessing, right? That they put in usually $250 each or something like that.
It was around there. Yeah. And then
who from True? Tony Conrad or?
Yeah, Tony.
But Tony's great. We're on the board of a company together. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
My dad jumped in.
Thanks, Dad.
And
awesome.
So there was.
So now you got $1 million, and then what's the strategy after you get the $1 million in? Is there? I mean, obviously it's not going to get you to store level, but did you say with $1 million we're going to be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z? What was that X, Y, and Z?
Well, we needed to make a better product, and that having $1 million in the bank actually let us think bigger, and we actually didn't spend it for a little while,
right.
and until we realized we needed $10 million, and. What's so interesting is, we actually, on that $75K, we did about $8 million in revenue before we spent any other money.
Wow.
So that was a nice...
$8 million?
Yeah.
That many people bought the kit?
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that scale. That's the $700, $8 million, 1,000 kits? No, 10,000 kits.
So I think we learned quickly that we'd priced it wrong, and we priced it better. When we came out, our first machine was called the Cupcake.
Right.
The next one was called the Thingomatic. We priced that one at $1,300.
Right.
And
so you're talking about selling low thousands of products. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, we were totally screwed. We immediately ran, you buy things, you're like, okay, each machine needs 4 motors.
Right.
It should work like the internet, right? You just make
What
an
are
order.
motors?
But then you come upon the problem of like, okay, we've ordered them all. There's all of them in the world. We ordered all of them. There's no more.
You took all.
We just bought them all.
Right. And so now somebody's like, I could fire up my factory in China to make more, but you need to buy 100,000.
And that's a 12-week lead time. And we're like, oh, you're killing us. So...
Yeah, why doesn't manufacturing work like the internet? Oh, yeah, it's hardware.
Yeah.
It's bits.
There's atoms
bits,
involved.
there's atoms.
Things have to be like taken out of the earth and refined.
But in a way, that's what the product is changing, isn't
value,
it?
Yeah.
It's you're exchanging bits and atoms and making that process faster. So in fact, the MakerBot would have made the making of the MakerBot easier.
The other thing that we did early on is we had this, actually before we started MakerBot, we created this thing called Thingiverse, which is it's a website, thingiverse.com, and it's a universe of things, and it's where you go to share downloadable digital designs. So you can, all the things you see here in the store are all things that, if you have a MakerBot, you don't have to pay $20 for this Christmas ornament.
You just
can
print it.
You just make it, and,
you download a CAD drawing.
Yeah.
And what software do you use?
So we just about a month ago, we launched Makerware, which is MakerBot software.
Right.
And it's so much easier than before. Before it was kind of like command line software. Yeah. And now it's like we've got a GUI, it's luscious.
Drag and drop.
Oh, it's
I want that, yeah.
It's like it's 2003 all over again. It's great.
It's almost like you're building an entire vertical. I mean, it's not almost, it is. You're building an entire vertical over. So you get to watch how HP did their laser printers or how Apple did smartphones or whatever. I mean, just...
Yeah. We're building the guitars and amplifiers. We're playing them. Yeah. And we're putting the music on iTunes as well.
And what does HP and Apple think of this space? Like, are they in any way interested, or they're just like, we'll come back in 5 years?
That's going to be an interesting adventure. Yeah. So far, it's been pretty quiet on that front. And of course, I'm like, okay, I stay up at night thinking like, what happens if one of the big players get in? How are we getting ready for when this hits?
Yeah, how do you become defensible when somebody at Apple says we should make this, or somebody at HP says we should make this?
And so we just keep adding, value, adding verticals, adding ways that making it easy for people to do this and make it fun, accessible.
It sounds like the database of things is pretty defensible too. I mean, that's like your App Store defense.
There's more than 25,000 things that you can download today, and 4,000 of those things have been uploaded in the last 3 months.
Wow.
So this it's like the hockey stick is happening.
This physical object is made of what type of material? I mean, that's a question people have. Like, they look at it on camera, they're like, how does it feel? It feels to me like plastic. Like as if I bought, but a little bit heavier, in all honesty. Like, it feels like a more dense plastic. But what is it exactly, technically?
So we have 2 kinds of plastic. That, what you're holding in your hand is ABS. It's what Lego is made out of. And it's what probably, except until iPhones were made out of metal, it's what every phone was made out of. But, if you've touched plastic things, it's probably ABS.
Yeah.
And then this is a material called PLA. And it's got a little bit of a different texture. It's not as soft. It's a little more, it's a...
It feels stronger.
It is, and we actually make chains.
This feels incredibly strong. Like, I don't think I could crush this. I'm trying right now.
You probably could if you stepped on it, because it's just an ornament. It's like an orb that you might hang on your tree. But PLA is just this lovely renewable bioplastic, and it's made from corn domestically. So,
and how much? I mean, I see the spools in the background here. You buy a spool, and the printer essentially melts it.
Yep.
Warms it, and then you build the object, right?
It's kind of like an automated hot glue gun. We'll start one up here in a little bit, and you can see it basically brings the plastic in. Yeah. It's kind of like spaghetti coming into the extruder.
Sure.
And it heats it up, and then it draws a little teeny tiny line of plastic on the build platform. Mm-hmm. And then it lifts up, and it draws another drawing on top of that drawing. And layer by layer, it creates the object. So you can actually feel the like layers on there.
Yeah, the ribs, And so... what would this object I'm holding in my hand that's the size of a golf ball cost in plastic?
So it's about $50 a kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds. I'm going to guess that this is...
An ounce?
Yeah, maybe even less. This is probably in the realm of 50 cents or $1 in material.
So you could make objects like this helicopter for $1 or $2, and you would have to buy in the store for 10 or 20.
Let's see. What's the price on the helicopter? I think it's more than that.
Well, I'm
35.
saying like buying it here as an
Right.
object of art. I'm
Right.
saying if you were to buy a toy in a store, whatever, mass-produced in China. But
So this is 35 here. If you were going to make it yourself, it'd probably be $2. So
Right.
there's definitely one of the kind of interesting things that happens in the MakerBot store is people see that they sort of get to look behind the curtain of manufacturing and say, okay, this is how much this plastic costs, and this is how much I'm buying it for.
Right.
If I had the machine, I could make these all day long.
Right.
Instead of buying them.
And what is the limitation in terms of materials? Right now we see plastic, but in the bigger units, like the ones that people might buy, are you doing metal, or are they doing other alloys, or where is this going to go eventually?
So we have some friends who have a business called Shapeways here in New York. Basically, New York has become the 3D printing center of the universe.
Which is interesting because in the 80s and 90s, it was a printing town for magazines.
Yeah.
There were printers in Manhattan.
Right.
Where I printed Silicon Valley Reporter back in the day, they would print it in New Jersey or Hoboken, drive it in. I mean, you could go to your printer and see your stuff on the press.
Yeah. So Shapeways has a business where they have those really high-end machines, and some of them actually 3D print in metals, others 3D print in nylon. Really
interesting.
And they do it in. You wouldn't want one of these things in your home. They have dust that's not good for you to breathe. And one of the nice things about a MakerBot is you can just have it in your home and not stress out about it. But you can basically go on their site and there are these really high-end machines, and they go for like $1 million, those machines.
Right.
But you can have access to them by using their service.
In the mainframe sort of way. So right now we see a lot of toys, a lot of objects of art, collectibles. Do you see a time? That's beautiful. By the way.
This
house is just
an architectural house. This is actually
actually starts to feel like a practical use of the technology. Like if I'm an architect,
they see this and they just buy one. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is what your interior decorator.
They go, I've made these, and I've had these made for me before, and I've spent hundreds of dollars. And you go, okay, this is just, this is not very much plastic. And they look at how much a kilogram of plastic costs, and they look at how many of these they could make with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is 3 or 4 ounces. So at whatever it is an ounce, $1 or $2 an ounce, nothing.
Yeah.
And if you're building your house in the Hamptons or in Woodstock, New York, and you show up with this, and the other architect shows up with paper, you win.
Yes, you do.
So, I mean, this is just transformative. So this is a transformative use for architects. What are the other transformative uses? I mean, toys and hobbyists, just like, I guess, the original Apple II was toys and hobbyists, Commodore 64, toys and hobbyists. The next, application layer is obviously getting things done, closing sales. Architects, no-brainer.
Yep.
What else is a no-brainer that's coming in the next 5-10 years?
Hey, everybody. Isn't this a fascinating interview, huh? MakerBot, 3D printing, amazing. And we couldn't have done this without our friends over at eMinutes. Yes, they're the law firm with 20 years of service to the biggest names in sports, music, and film. And they're embarking on a mission. They want to form 500 free corporations for the first time ever, free for entrepreneurs. I know a lot of people have taken advantage of this and saved thousands of dollars. And they're almost done. They've done 350 of them. They got 150 left. So if you're starting a new company and you want to be incorporated for free, including the filing fees, which, hey, but that's a couple $100, $200 in my experience, you can do it for free with @eMinutes. Go to eMinutes.com. And they have a new service, and this is a great one, which is called entity management. If you don't know what that is, when you create an entity like an LLC or a corporation, S Corp, C Corp, whatever, Delaware Corp, you need to handle the minutes and the Secretary of State filings, all that stuff that give you peace of mind associated with maintaining a company. Because if you don't do it, then you can get all kinds of penalties. It's a whole bunch of problems, and they do it for only $135 a year. It's a fantastic price, and I'm going to actually switch my companies over to that because they didn't even have that service when I had other people managing ours, and boy, we're paying through the nose for that. Thank you so much to @eMinutes for sponsoring this very program. Over 10,000 people have enrolled in their new tool, the entity management tool, which is absolutely fantastic. You're going to want to really take care of that for your corporation. Entity management, very important. Go ahead and thank at eMinutes on your Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Rise, LinkedIn, 6 Degrees, or other social network, Bebo, if you're rocking the Bebo. Anyway, listen, thank you at eMinutes, and let's get back to this very exciting interview with MakerBot.
I like it when entrepreneurs buy it. So we see 3D MakerBotted things show up on Kickstarter all the time. So people are doing their prototypes, and even if they're going to do a small run of things, like 100 or 1,000, it makes sense to use the MakerBot.
Interesting.
So there's all sorts of cool. And
so product design. Product design is just killer.
Yes.
Is there going to be a day when? Okay,
well, the other thing is there's a lot of engineers who work at like the high-end industrial engineering firms and design firms, and they usually have like a room filled with 3D printers that are really expensive, and we see those people getting them because they can have them on their desk, they can do their prototypes, they can look at it, they don't even have to show their boss, they can throw it away and do another one.
Just like in the old days, you had like the HP, which one was it? Like the HP 2 came out, and it was like, that was only $2,000 or $3,000, and every lawyer got one.
Yeah.
I remember I was selling them at the time, and every lawyer got one, as opposed to going to the printing room, the mail room, and that was like accounted for. Then went on their desk, they could just print whatever they wanted and read stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of decentralization of
it puts the power of manufacturing in individuals' hands. And I mean, we also see like parents and teachers getting them. We ship to a lot of academic institutions because, you know, for one of the big machines, if it's $60,000 or $100,000, they can buy a lot of MakerBots for that price. So a whole class can get, instead of having kind of a lineup or a pile up, they can just be like, okay, this is your 3D printer this semester.
Wow.
And then boom, stuff magic happens.
And like, So education, architecture, product design. Let's talk about toys. I mean, where is Lucas and Disney in all of this? I mean, have they reached out to you guys? Do you have in your database Disney princesses for me to print out for my 3-year-old daughter? And I mean, that to me sounds like just the new App Store. I mean, right now I'm buying all kinds of things from Disney Princess line. Like, if I could just print out Ariel and then my daughter and I could paint it, this would be the most magical moment. Like, I'm buying a 3D printer.
We have a user named MakerBlock who is a dad and has a daughter, and I think his daughter's 4 or 5 now. And she goes to school and says, "Yeah, my dad can make anything." And then she actually comes home and she's like, "Yeah, I need a toothbrush holder." And her dad basically says, "Okay, well, let's draw it out." And they draw it out, and then he shows her how they kind of do it together, and then it's her thing, and she's got this dad who has this superpower.
Wow.
And so we're seeing that kind of stuff, and I bring that up because she wanted a princess, and so they designed a princess together and made it.
Yeah, not a Disney princess, so we don't need any Disney lawyers calling, but a princess, there is existing prior art of princesses before Disney started their own. I do think that Disney has not trademarked princess. So,
but then, like, it's interesting, like we had.
But Nike are you reaching out to those? I mean, you're reaching out to Disney and Lucas, or now Lucas part of Disney, and saying, can we make a series of characters and let people buy them? Or, I'm sorry, buy the CAD file. What do you call it? Like for $1 or $2?
I think we're going to see a lot of that happening. And you know, it's interesting. From early video podcasting days, we have Zadi Diaz from...
Is now at Disney.
Who's now at Disney. And so, of course, we're talking. So it's funny how,
Zadi's
like,
great.
I was like number 13 in video podcasting, and I was at GnomeDex in 2005 with I think it was Adam Curry was giving
I was
the
there.
keynote. And
that was the famous one where Dave Weiner and I got into it.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I think it was Dave Weiner. Yeah, but Adam Curry did his podcast. It was 2007 probably, but Adam Curry did a live version of the Daily Source Code.
And so me and Steve Garfield were down in the front with our video cameras, videotaping stuff. And all those people that, that room right there, I bet you it would be so interesting.
Where are they now?
To get the email list the name of that.
Perillo,
we should get him to do that. Because those people have all gone on to do stuff. Like the night before that GnomeDex, I went to like a WordPress 1.1 meetup with like the 5 other people in Seattle who were doing.
It was great because the special thing about what Chris was doing at GnomeDex, I think, was he invited people who actually built shit.
Yeah, and felt passionate about it, and were willing to argue about it on stage and make it interesting.
Exactly.
It wasn't just like canned stuff. It was like on the edge.
Yeah, and so that is a distinct future possibility is to print stuff that is like licensed material.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, we had the Nike. They have a R&D group, and they swung by to hang out, and I joked with him. I said, people tell me like this is all going to be fun until somebody uploads an Air Jordan, right? And I was like, you should all do it.
Totally.
But it won't work, right? I mean, that requires like canvas and other stuff that is not. But you could do this. You could do the base.
You know what I think would be cool is if they just did scans of the old Air Jordans, and they were like keychains and stuff like that. I think that would be a great place for them to start.
Absolutely. So how does?
So we're going to see that. That's coming. That'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out.
I think then in the store you could have an elite collection. You can only get these Star Wars characters, these comic book, these Marvel characters. Do you see this? We have people coming in, getting a 3D scan, and then having their bust done, which is incredibly unique. Somewhere there's a bust of myself in here. You see this turning into. What are those things called when you go into the photo booth? You see this becoming like the modern day photo booth?
This is, we call it the MakerBot-3D photo booth. Yeah. And it's because it's kind of, back in the day when there was chemistry associated with photo booths, you'd go in and it would do its thing, and 5 minutes later it would come out. And this is at that level. It's an exciting moment.
What will it cost to make a bust like this? It's about the size of, slightly double the size of a golf ball.
So we've got 20, 40, and 60. So you're holding the 60 one.
Yeah.
Then one that's about the same size as a golf ball is 40, and then one that's, smaller than a golf ball.
Just slightly.
20.
Yeah.
So it's accessible. You can give this to your sweetheart if you're going away for a week or.
Yeah, it's like a little mini version of you.
Yeah, a little portrait.
Let's talk about the controversial stuff. Somebody, I don't think with your device, but people are printing gun parts. Obviously, a gun can't be made completely of plastic, right? The barrel's got to be made out of metal. But some people are concerned about weapons being made with the platform. What do you say to those folks?
Yeah, I'm just not worried about that. Yeah. We made MakerBots with the intention that people are going to do creative and wonderful and positive things with it, and that's really what we see.
Yeah.
And there's going to be edge cases, of course, but our mission is that people will do positive and creative things.
And in a certain way, like I can go to Home Depot and buy everything I need to make a huge bomb, sadly, or a gun, or whatever, pipe bomb, whatever else you want. So it's sort of almost like people just, whatever the newest technology is, they just demonize it, isn't it?
I think there's a little bit of that, yeah.
Yeah. When I saw those stories, I was like, really? Oh, you can build a gun with a 3D printer. Really? Well, you could also build a gun with wood. Pretty nuts. Yeah.
It'll be the things that excite me are where people are using it and doing things that have never been possible for ordinary people to do. And so we see things like we've got this dad who his daughter is 41 and a half inches tall.
Okay.
And they're going to the amusement park. This is not looking good because you have to be 42 inches to ride every single
platforms.
Ride. Yeah. So the dad saves the day, makes inserts, orthopedic inserts,
Genius.
which could in theory be used for actual people who need orthopedic issues, but in this case it was just to save the day for his daughter.
Nanotechnology eventually possible with this?
Yeah, we've
and how far
been
out
able,
are we from that sort of science fiction?
I've been so proud of my crew because we started out and you could make things with a layer resolution of about 1/3 of a millimeter. And now out of the box...
What is 1/3 of a millimeter? For what would be an analogy? Is that a hair? Or is it 2 hairs? What is it?
So that's 3 layers of printer paper.
Okay.
And now...
Of just 8.5...
8.5 by 11 printer paper.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we can actually do it at 100 microns, which is one piece of printer paper.
Wow.
And it starts to get pretty exciting about where we're going.
So if you make a little circle with that, what would that feel like in your hand? Would it feel
like a piece of paper?
Ah.
So if you just did one layer, so...
Wow. And then is it going to go smaller than that?
Already we've got people doing experiments at 20 and 40 microns. And it's a little bit like when you get a Honda and you open up the hood and you turn it into a sports car.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that going on in the settings where you have to get in, we made it really easy.
You can break stuff, but it's real serious hacking.
Yeah, we've got some people who are pushing the limits there, and as soon as it's stable, we roll it out for everybody.
And what would that, sort of nanotechnology start to enable in your mind? Is there some application people have conceived of, like if we can get it down to this micron, if we went 10x, 20x, and we got to whatever it is, what would we be looking at possible?
Well, the medical community gets really excited when things start going small because they start thinking like, where can we stick this stuff? And like, what can you do? What can you manufacture with this? How can and then just like with the 3D photo booth, you have your head. Well, what if you could take a picture of? What if you could take a 3D photo of the heart?
Right.
And
print a piece
and make
of
something
valve?
right there in the operating room.
Wow.
That starts to get when you start thinking about the future.
Like print a stent or something,
Yeah,
or a valve for your heart.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's where there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening in the next 5 years.
So you raised a venture round for the company too?
Yep.
After that $1 million angel round, yep.
So we raised $75K, then the 1.2, and then raised $10 million.
And who was the $10 million investor?
So most of it was Foundry, and
Wow.
then we also had True came in.
Foundry is Brad Feld.
So Brad Feld is on our board.
And he's a visionary guy. I mean, he gets it.
He got it instantly. And it was one of those things where he was one of the first people I talked to, and it was like, okay, this feels really good. And then I went and talked to everybody and was like, okay, let's go back to where we started. And
did you have your choice? Were there multiple term sheets coming in, and then so how did you pick? What was your decision-making process as an entrepreneur?
I think as an entrepreneur, you have options. When you have options, that's the best because then you can say, okay, I'm going to make some choices, and
you have a little leverage, I suppose, on terms.
Yeah. Which is also a good place to be. So, we went for a cultural fit, and I probably could have gone out and spent another month and got a higher valuation, but the right fit, I believe, for an entrepreneur is it's actually worth money because you're going to be working with this person. If you're going to be able to get stuff done, or that person has connections, and in this case, Foundry invests in lots of hardware companies, they get it. And so, and Brad just is like...
He's a ball of enthusiasm.
Yeah, he is just a machine of
he'll be on the show in December, I think,
And he's good. And
so you optimize for culture.
So we optimize for culture
and your
fit.
personal fit. Like what you and your co-founder, who you wanted to hang with in a way.
I mean, we've never accepted any money from anybody we wouldn't go out and have a drink with.
Right.
That's kind of been...
Yeah, but this is sort of like... who you wouldn't go away for a weekend with. I mean, it's sort of like a little bit different.
Who I'd be willing to hand my keys to and walk away.
Yeah, who can watch my kids while I'm using the bathroom or something.
So it was just, and then we also got, so it was Foundry for 6, Bezos for 2, and then True for 1, and then all the angels followed along.
How did you wind up meeting Jeff Bezos?
How
did you get to Jeff Bezos?
I was at a conference, and he came. I was demoing the machine, and he was at the conference, and he came up and he just grilled me for about half an hour.
He does that. He did that to me with Weblogs Inc. and blogs.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's just he's got great questions.
Yeah, and then there's kind of at the end, he was like, "Okay, give me your card." And I'd already given them all out, and so I was like, "Well, let me email you. What's your email?" And
Jeff at Amazon.com.
He was like, Jeff at Amazon.
Yeah, first name at company name, of course. Like, you think somebody else has Jeff at Amazon.com? People are always like, can you give me Jeff Bezos or Mark Cuban or Larry Page's email address? I'm like, you're dumb, right? Like, you're too dumb for me to give you the email address. If you can't guess Larry Page's email address, and if he's got a secret one, I'm not giving you that. And he does.
So
he grills you, and then he did it through his investment vehicle, not Amazon itself proper.
Right.
And once you have Jeff Bezos involved, that opens a lot of doors, doesn't it? People hear that, and it's like you got a massive halo around the company.
And so now we just take one. Now we're one foot in front of the other. It'll be interesting, and we've got enough excitement in the world where. We were on the cover of Wired in October.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
That was a real thrill. That was very surreal walking in through the
airport.
Well,
I mean, do you remember the first time you read Wired? When was the first time you read Wired as an entrepreneur?
It was a long time ago. I subscribed to it when it came out.
In 95.
Must have been 95.
Do you remember the first cover? Who's the first cover you remember?
I just remember that first year. All the colors on the covers were all like...
red on black.
BAM!
Like, this is going to hurt your eyes. Did you ever
What was the first cover? Do you remember?
I do. It's going to come to me. It wasn't Laurie Anderson.
It's either Laurie Anderson or not Negroponte. I don't know. You tell me. Do you remember?
I don't remember either.
Anyway, we'll
We're
look
gonna
it
have
up
to
later.
check the
I remember
internet.
I remember the Laurie Anderson cover. Anyway, it was like back then when Wired came out. I mean, that's what we would talk about at parties for the next 30 days was the last episode of Wired because there was no real web going on.
Right.
Wired didn't exist. They didn't have a website.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, it was like, I have a computer that has like a gigabyte.
And a CD-ROM.
Oh my gosh, and I can copy CDs. Look out.
As an entrepreneur, you've always dreamed about being on the cover of Wired.
I think every entrepreneur does.
And when you get the call from Chris Anderson that he wants to do a story on you, I'm assuming Chris called you.
Yep.
Do you immediately in your mind go, I wonder if I'm going to get the cover?
So we'd been mentioned in maybe 2 years ago, we were mentioned in a cover article, and it was like, okay, here we go. And I was at the
like
time
the Maker,
the Maker's
hacker
one. Yeah, and I was kind of like, ooh, am I
so close?
Have we gotten so close that we've ruined the possibility of getting on the cover?
Yeah.
Oh, but when I talked to Chris, he was like, how would you feel about being on the cover of the October issue? And I was like, when does that hit the stands? September 17th. Okay. Because we'd actually planned to launch this machine in like November
now, when he
or
says,
December.
how do you feel? Do you have this surreal moment, like I've arrived as an entrepreneur? I mean, which is more important, when you get the $10 million investment or the cover of Wired? All honesty, as an entrepreneur, which one was the more mind-blowing experience?
They were very different.
Yeah?
Take
me through it.
For the $10 million, I actually raised that from the hospital. So I had a baby and she was in the NICU. And I was raising money and basically camped out in the NICU.
With like a 4-pound baby or a 5-pound baby?
2.5-pound baby.
Wow.
So I was basically like...
Talk about getting a dose of reality.
Yeah.
Reality check.
I'm in there.
Everything turned out well, obviously.
Oh, yeah. She's happy. She's all caught up.
How old now?
She's now 16 months. And she's talking as if she knows what she's saying. It's like great.
Fantastic, yeah.
And
16 months is when it starts to get really good for dad. They start to become little people.
Yeah.
Wait till they're 3 years old, 2.5 years old, and you start taking them to Disney World and Disneyland. Then it's lots of fun.
I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that I'd worked on it for a couple months, and then all this kind of drama happened. I'm in the hospital, and it was like, okay, we pulled this. I was like, okay, I pulled this off from,
Yeah. The most emotionally tense experience.
The most intense experience, and on top of all that, we just kind of hit this milestone of raising $10 million. And so that was one of those feelings of like, okay, bring it on. I can do anything. You want to throw stuff at me? I'll take it. We can handle. You throw me anything, and we will. My team and I will handle it.
Right.
So that was an awesome feeling. The cover of Wired was more, and that was more like an achievement unlocked.
Resiliency. Yeah.
Whereas
we're unstoppable.
Yes. Whereas like the cover of Wired is an absolute celebration, and it's very surreal because there's photography involved, and they go all. It's like. There's full makeup day. And the full day and all these different setups, and you have no idea which one they're going to use, and want to make sure you don't look stupid on the front of it, and so there's all this. I was up until I actually saw it, I was convinced that something else could happen in the world that would
be more important.
Yeah,
Elon Musk reaches the space station or something, right? You could get
right.
Elon Musk is like, oh, you made a 3D printer? How quaint! I reached the space station. I've created superchargers, and you can drive forever for free. Your 3D printer is interesting. Well done. Elon Musk makes a tube that goes from New York to L.A. in 7 seconds. He sort of makes it hard for all of us, doesn't he?
So it was really, and I'd had all this like tension of like, because we'd shot it all, it was all happening, but I think there was at some moment it goes to the printers and there's no stopping it. But I was just, until I actually saw it, I was like, has this actually happened? Has this actually happened? And then when it happened, it was like, whoa, it was like this surreal new world of like, okay, I'm like, it's an arriving moment and a celebration for the
But you
team.
have to move on and get back to work, and so you decide to do a store.
Right. Well, before we get there, though, I will say I have to give massive kudos to my team because we had originally planned to launch this thing like November, December, maybe even CES. And then we got the September 17th cover. And we took the Replicator 2 from initiating the project to being on the cover in 5 months.
Wow.
And for
So that
hardware,
means working 6 days a week, 7 days a week.
the team just like full throttle all the time.
It's tough
making
sometimes
it happen.
because the media, just wants to make you the hero. You're the one who's going to get all the kudos. And then you've got to go back to your team, and you got 25, 50 people, whatever it is. I don't know how many people you have.
Oh, no, I made them take pictures of the team and all that kind of stuff. So
right, but the media is going to put one person on the cover. We all know that. They're going to just make one person into king. Steve Jobs, whatever, obviously had an army behind him, but the media is going to focus on one person. How do you take that energy that the media is just naturally going to crown you king, and even your co-founder might not get as much press? How do you smooth that out as a founder in terms of, like you just did on the program, giving kudos to your team? How do you do that institutionally, like as that's going to happen? I mean, how do you make them feel like it's their victory as well?
Well, I think as we were building the machine, I said, your machine is going to be on the cover.
Yeah.
That's what I told everybody who worked at MakerBot. You're going to be able to look at that cover and say, that is mine.
So the product.
Yeah.
Focusing in on the product. It's great advice. Yeah.
So that worked. And then just celebrating the moments when they happen. And, that was a big one.
Well, I mean, I have that moment all the time on the show where people are like, I'm talking about all these great victories, but really it's not your victory. It's the victory. It's 100 little victories by 25 people having a victory every 6 weeks. It's a very collaborative thing, building a startup.
And I have to say, we're actually now at 150 people.
150 people.
And
my God.
Yeah, I know, man. It's intense.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Considering when I met you, it was like 2 dudes in a loft.
So I actually have 2 co-founders, so Zach Smith and Adam Mayer. And now we're 150. We're more than 150. I actually couldn't give you an exact number right this second because we've hired a few people. And we're about to move into actual office that's 32,000 square feet.
In Brooklyn still?
In Brooklyn, in Metrotech 1.
Oh, I know Metrotech 1. That's where Chase used to be and stuff. Yep. Yeah. So you're in an office tower.
We've got a view of everything. We've got the whole floor, so we literally see everything.
Another surreal moment to have an actual real office.
Yeah, right now we're literally in a warehouse where we literally made our own desks from 2x4s and plywood.
Genius.
And we're going to make this, that's going to be that's really the next shift. We're going to make that move early in December.
So let's talk about the store.
Yes.
Did you make the store because people don't get it and you need them to see it for them to get it? That's what I thought. When I walked in here today, I said, it's such a magical moment to see those machines working. And then when you showed me the machine working, I guess it was a New York Tech meetup, you had it there, and it was sort of kind of working. You need for them to see it, don't you?
I think we're getting to the place, I mean, up until now, yes, absolutely. And I think even, people need to see it. They walk in here and either they've seen it and they're verifying that it's not just science fiction, it's actual real. There's a verification kind of process for people who already know about it. Yeah. And then literally you'll see people walk by and then they'll go in reverse. They'll do the walking double take. They'll be like, wait, what's going in there? Because you go walk by the Gap and you can go in there and buy jeans and you know what the Gap is and you know what jeans are and you know what. But people walk by here and they literally don't know what they're seeing.
You basically created a storefront with the future. It's like, here is Star Trek.
It's a portal.
It's a portal into 20 years
next?
from now. Why is there not a printer in the window?
There is, right over there.
Oh, okay, thank God.
So we've got 2 windows. The printer's running in the window.
Printer's running in that one.
And then we've got this one. We just put up this holiday display. These are
gorgeous. Yeah, I see them. We'll put them in the B-roll. Yeah, you basically have a cathedral over there or something, a castle.
A castle decked out with all this great furniture. So interesting story about the furniture, side note.
Yeah.
There's this Thingiverse user, Casey Hultgren, and she goes by, her handle is Pretty Small Things. And she is a set designer who designs sets for Broadway shows. Her sets are on Broadway right now. And she used to have to use X-Acto knives and paper and cardboard to design the things. And she shows it to the director, and the director says, move these things around, or however that goes. And now she does it all with a MakerBot. And so she comes up with the designs. She doesn't have to cut her fingers and bleed over everything.
Yeah, it's genius.
She just makes all these amazing period furniture for her sets, and then she shares them. So, if you're into Queen Elizabeth chairs, guess what? There's a whole set of them, and you can print them out.
How sure were you that this would work 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and today?
So, When we decided to do it, it was definitely like, okay, let's dip our toes in the water.
What percentage? 3 years ago when you started?
So it was actually 4. So January 2009 we started, and we
would become a real business what we see today.
Right. So
tens of millions in sales.
Yep. When we started, we just were focused so much on the next step. We didn't see that. But when we shipped the first 20 machines out, and we'd planned to make 20 and sell 10 this month and 10 the next month, and they all sold in like a week or a week and a half, we were like, oh crap. And then we spent literally the next year just packing and shipping. We didn't get to be creative at all. We literally were just putting things in boxes, figuring out how to generate labels, putting labels on boxes and making them go out the door. And then, so that was kind of a reality moment. And then when we came out with a new machine, the second machine, it was better. We were like, okay,
yeah. So very quick. I mean, I guess one of the great things about a hardware company is when you actually have
a product,
a sale, the market has validated it.
Yes.
This has been an amazing interview. It's really great to see somebody take something so speculative and turn it from the speculation to a hobbyist, now to a store. And so I wish you great success and congratulations to the MakerBot team.
Jason, it's great to talk to you.
Awesome. Well done. We'll do it again I want to do it again in a year and see where you're at.
Deal.
All right. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.